Hello and welcome to the Cricket World Cup Daily, hosted by myself, Eugene Berger, and the wonderful Simon Roberts, as Jono Gordon is still in Spain playing golf. Jono is unfortunately not going to be available until Tuesday, which is a good
March.
Yeah. Robbo, what did you make of today's game?
Pretty much as expected, I think, wasn't it? I'll be honest, I watched a bit of it, and I was quite impressed with some of the... I mean, make a note of this. I was quite impressed with some of the Bangladesh bowling.
What? I almost fell off my chair. A compliment?
Taskin Ahmed has obviously got a yard.
Yeah.
From the things that I've seen, he's been doing some work with Alan Donald. I don't know if Alan Donald's out there as their bowling coach at the minute or whatever, but he looks reasonable.
Yep.
The fizz is the fizz, and then they look like they've got some potential. To be fair, yeah. I'll give them a little bit of credit, but New Zealand did just different gear compared to them. You look at the scorecards. Lucky Ferguson bowled rockets. I think we've just figured out, haven't we, that he bowled 44 dot balls in his 10 overs.
That he did, yes.
So that means off the next 16 balls, but obviously he bowled 4 extras, so that's not even great maths.
Nope.
Yeah, 16 balls. So in 20 balls, he's gone for 49. So he's basically either gone dot or 4.
Typical fast bowler.
Yeah, which is a steady effort. Yeah, what were your thoughts on it?
Well, first ball of the game, Lytton Duss gets out caught at fine leg, which was a strange dismissal. It's the first time. Oh, by the way, and it's his birthday. Happy birthday. You know, first ball of the game, first time in World Cup history that somebody's got out first ball, and it's his birthday. So happy birthday, Lytton Duss. But yeah, I think then they try to rebuild. Tamin, Miraz, I thought Shakib Al Hasan and Mushtaq Ramin, they tried to build an innings together. But as we were trying to say in a couple of other, Cricket World Cup daily pods that we've been doing, it's not the right type of cricket to be playing here. They're playing, 4-year-old cricket, as you said, at the Cricket World Cup in England. So, yeah, but I think it was interesting. I thought the ball was doing more in the second innings than it was in the first innings. So the Bangladesh bowlers of Rahman and Islam, the two left arm openers, they were troubling the New Zealand batsmen in Conway and Ravindra, and then Williamson, which is why Williamson batted so slowly. But as we've seen in terms of the form of the World Cup, if you absorb that early pressure, you can cash in towards the end, which is exactly what Daryl Mitchell did.
Yeah, I mean, Kane Williamson, from the bit I saw, just looked like he was having a net. He played and missed it a few. It was a very Kane Williamson during a run chase innings, wasn't it? It was, I know how fast I need to go in order to knock it off with plenty of time.
Yeah.
He basically said, we're going to knock it off in 45 overs, and then Mitchell came in, smokes that everywhere, and that takes it down to 42 overs, which is fundamentally what they did. The more I see this New Zealand side play, the more I think they look very, very good. They've got a lot of bases covered for me in those subcontinental conditions with the seamers that they've got, the experience that a lot of those guys have got in the IPL cricket on those particular pitches. And then you look at their spinners when they've got obviously Mitchell Santner, and then they've got 2 or 3 part-time options. And Ish Sodhi obviously isn't playing at the minute because of the balance of the side they want to have. So if it does start to spin more, you'd say they've got that option to bring in. They've obviously used Glenn Phillips, Ravindra and Daryl Mitchell, who I know are both meds, but as that kind of 5th bowler option. But I think they look very, very good. And like I say, having dismissed Bangladesh out of sight, I still don't think they'll win many games, but I was quite impressed with them, and it's sort of looking quite good for them moving forward, so to speak. Certainly in the bowling department, I think they, other than perhaps Lytton Duss as a young player, they don't have... I mean, Shakib Al Hasan's not getting any younger. Mushfiqur Rahim is probably still only 28. But it feels like he's been around since about 1912.
Yeah.
Udullah is... I mean, I played cricket with him, so that shows how old he is. And then some of the other guys I'm not quite sure about, but certainly bowling wise, they've got really, really good options. And you'd have to say at the next T20 World Cup kind of thing. I know we just had one last year, but when these bowlers get a bit more experience under the belt and playing a bit more around the world, like they're going to be doing, because they are high quality cricketers, you'd have to say, I'd personally, at the minute, from what I've seen so far, you'd say Bangladesh look in a better place to develop than like a Sri Lanka do, arguably.
Yeah, agreed with that. Yeah, actually, it's a good point.
So, like we've obviously spoke about it most nights when we talk about that tier system, and those guys, those two teams are the two above. You'd say they're sort of 7 and 8 in the rankings at the minute. Who's going to develop the best out of them two? At the minute, you'd have to go Bangladesh.
Yeah.
Even though Sri Lanka got 300 and whatever against Pakistan the other day,
and South Africa.
Did they?
No, South Africa.
Yeah, and so
So other news to come out of this game was that Cam Williamson is back. He didn't look particularly fit most of the way through. His knee seemed to be playing up. Is that what he was out injured with? I can't actually remember.
I believe so. I think it was one of those where if the outfield had been like the one that England played on the other day, as England did with Ben Stokes, I'm not sure he'd have played.
Yeah.
And I think if it had been South Africa or one of the top 6 nations, top 5 nations, I don't think he'd have played either. But I think it's kind of a nice game to ease him in. Obviously, he then retired hurt. And so that's
unrelated, I think, though. Unrelated.
Yeah, but that's potentially another bit of a setback for them, isn't it?
Yeah.
If he's in. The one thing I do want to ask you, we saw Conway giving out reverse sweeping.
Yes.
Obviously, we had the Steve Smith LBW yesterday,
which I still don't think is controversial. I've seen people have sent me the highlights of that, and we're not going to go back into that. But I didn't think it was that controversial when I saw how much it nipped off the pitch. I didn't realize it nipped off the pitch. But carry on with your one here. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm not sure because a lot of people are saying from that first view. Do you know, there's the first view you get is apparently front on.
Yes.
Now, I had a look at some of these, the Steve Smith one again today because I saw the Conway one. And when that ball first hit Conway and it showed it on the replay, I was like, he's outside off stump.
It looked outside off, yeah.
He just looks a long way outside off stump. Like it didn't look out. And then you see the replay and it's obviously, well, not obviously, I still had a look at it and went, man, and the way it flashed up straight away in line, I was like, oh, okay. I'm not sure if that first view that we're getting, whether it's something to do with how the cameras have been set.
I was about to ask that, yeah.
Because you looked at the two blue lines that there are, the sort of 1 foot either side of middle stomach that they use for the leg side wide line. And they seem, on the Steve Smith one, they certainly seem to be pointing to very much to the right of the camera, which would bring the view that you're getting so you can see more of off stump. You can see sort of from mid off. And that certainly appeared to be the case today, whereas when they do then go down that straight down the line. Now, normally when I've been to cricket, the cameras are pretty much side by side.
Yes.
The 3 that they're using are pretty much side by side. But I don't know whether the first view we're getting, that front-on, so-called front-on view, is slightly wider, which would give the impression that everything is slightly more leg side or slightly further to the right than we think it is. What do you think?
I was, as you were saying that, I was thinking to myself a couple of things. Are the side screens as tall and as high as the ones that we have in other test playing nations? I can't remember. I've not been looking out for the cameras. Now that we've had this discussion, I'm going to start looking out to see where those cameras are located. And if anybody, listening to the pod knows of anybody out there, doing commentary or just going to visit and watch the cricket, let us know, because we'd be really interested in having a conversation with you or with them out there. But yeah, I agree with you. It must have something to do with the way that the cameras are set up, because to the TV camera, it looks very, very odd. And then, but again, we don't know how it's set up. So yeah, very good point there, AJ. But it's an interesting one, and one that we'll continue to research over the next couple of weeks. We've only got 6 weeks left, so
I mean, depending on how it goes on, you never know, we might get flown out there to do some kind of camera analysis by the end of it. I doubt that.
You never say never. But, let's see.
Well, yeah, you never know. You're looking a raffle.
Huge game tomorrow.
I don't actually know what the game is tomorrow.
Pakistan, India tomorrow. Huge game. Yeah.
130,000 seater stadium. It's at the same ground as where the opening England v New Zealand game took place, I believe, isn't it? From some of the analysis.
Yeah. It is at Ahmedabad. So yes.
Yeah, which is the same ground.
So you reckon that's 130,000 seater?
That's what they were saying.
Wow. Okay.
and there's going to be no Pakistan fans allowed in.
What? That's very
Well,
surprising.
they're not allowed in the country, are they?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yes, yeah.
Which, I mean, that if you're a Pakistani cricketer tomorrow, that could be one hell of an environment.
Yeah.
130,000 baying Indians are going to be after you. I also won't want to be the doorman if the Pakistan bowlers all of a sudden decide to show up and India are 14 for 4. Kohli's out, KL rolls out, Rohit Sharma's out, and they are, that 130,000 will be making a beeline for the exit at a rate of knots. You won't want to be the first bus driver.
No, 132,000 according to Google. I wonder if we're
Yeah.
finally going to see our first sold out game, because I don't think the India Australia game was sold out. It might have been, but it didn't look that way. I'm interested in looking at the crowd instead of the cricket. Look, the cricket's going to be super interesting. Don't get me wrong, but I'm interested to see what the crowd looks like.
Well, it is quite interesting when it comes to the crowds, because I know we talk about it and we talk about the interest in it, but they reckon there was 22,000 at Australia versus South Africa the other day.
What, on TV watching?
No. Within the ground. Obviously, it's a 45, 50,000 seat stadium.
Yeah.
They're massive stadiums. So if you're sat there in every other seat, but that fills everything in, well, all the grounds in the UK, other than Old Trafford, Lords, and the Oval. That's every one of them to capacity. It fills
it's perception, isn't it?
Other than the bullring in South Africa, I believe it fills all the grounds in South Africa.
So you're really interesting way to look at it.
Yeah, people are going, it's not selling out, and I can understand that in that absolutely cavernous stadium that you had 130,000 people in. It's a bit like going I went to the MCG a while ago, and we got there on the first morning. There was 89,000 people in there, rammed. By the end of the day, after one of the most turgid days of cricket I've ever witnessed in my life, there was probably 50,000 people still, or 45,000 people still in there. It felt like we were playing on Twickenham Green and there'd been a bomb scare. Like it just didn't feel like there was an atmosphere at all. Yeah. But there's still 45,000 people there, most of which were the Barmy Army, granted. But I think it's one of those where you're not necessarily comparing apples with apples, so the saying goes, are you?
It's a very good point that you've raised there, and we will look out for that crowd tomorrow. We are going to be recording in a slightly different scenario because I have my awards dinner tomorrow night. And before my awards dinner, I am going to go and meet a few friends to go and watch the first Rugby World Cup semi-final. And I am planning to record with you at half-time of that game. So that will be interesting.
And let's face it, we're both going to have had a bit.
Yes. Yeah. So I will be on my mobile. Simon will be on his mobile too, more than likely. We'll see where we end up and what we're doing.
Well, no, I'll be at home.
But that episode will come out, I suspect, slightly later on Sunday morning compared to the rest of the episodes that we've been publishing. So what we'll do, Rob, is we'll leave it there for now. Any other thoughts?
No, mate. Cool. I'm looking for it. Should be a good game tomorrow. I tell you what, it's a good day of sport tomorrow. 2 Rugby World Cup semi-finals, India v Pakistan cricket, and I've got sort out my front garden to get all the plasterboard taken out so the grabber can come and collect.
Love it.
But what a day.
I look forward to catching up mainly about your garden tomorrow evening, Simon. So we'll catch up with you later, mate.